All right, so you're prepping for a crossing guard interview. How cool is that? We are diving deep today.
Yeah.
We're going to get you ready way beyond, like, tell me about your strengths, that sort of thing. You actually came with some great stuff for us to dig into. You've got RoleCatcher, and you found this awesome career guide. We're going to use those today, right? To, like, really think through those curveball questions. Because, I mean, when a 4-year-old with a backpack, twice their size, is running into traffic, you got to be ready for anything, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, it's about getting that this isn't just any other job, right? You are a pillar of safety, especially for these little ones, because they don't always get what's going on around them. So every single question they ask you, even if it sounds super simple on the surface, it all ties back to that. How are you going to keep people safe?
Okay, so let's dive into these common crossing guard interview questions that you pulled. The first one, it's interesting. It's, what inspired you to apply for the role of crossing guard? Which, on the surface sounds pretty straightforward, but I bet there's more to it.
Oh, for sure. This is your moment to show that you get the deeper impact of this kind of job, that it's about community, responsibility, and honestly, being a safety guardian, even if it's just for a few minutes every day.
Okay, so how do you nail this one? If they ask you what inspired you to apply, what are some things you should be thinking about?
So think about what really speaks to you about being a crossing guard. Is it that you want to help keep kids safe? Is it that you love being a part of your community, being present? Or maybe it's that you can really make a difference, preventing accidents, Like really find that core element that makes you want to do this, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're applying because you need a job, and that's okay.
Okay.
But find that thing that makes it feel like deeper. And this is actually where RoleCatcher can be super helpful.
Okay.
Because they give you these sample answers that are already tailored for the crossing guard job. Then you can personalize them with their AI. So you're not just starting from a blank page.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Takes the pressure off.
totally. And don't be surprised if they follow up, right? So they might ask about, your experience with kids, maybe what you know about the neighborhood, or even how you handle stress. Because, again, it's about keeping everyone safe and being responsible.
Which leads us perfectly into question number 2.
Yeah.
Which is, how would you handle a situation where a child refuses to listen to your instructions and tries to cross the street on their own?
Oh, man. That feels stressful just hearing it.
I know, right?
That feels like a test right there.
Totally a stress test. They want to see, can you stay calm? Because obviously the kid's safety comes first, always. And then, can you take a potentially dangerous situation and make it cool? You know what I mean? They're looking for quick thinking and clear communication.
So not yelling, get back here. No yelling. You got to remember it's a kid. They might not get the danger yet. So instead of commanding them, try being calmer, more understanding. You could say something like, hey, I know you're excited to get to that awesome slide over there, but it's my job to make sure we all cross safely. Let's wait together until those cars completely stop. Okay.
Okay, I like that. It's firm, but it's friendly. And it shows you can, like, talk to people in a tough spot.
Right. You're communicating well when things are getting a little crazy.
Right.
And it highlights something super important, too. They're watching how you talk, right? Your communication style. Because you might run into language barriers as a crossing guard. The career guide, crossing guard even talks about that.
Yeah. It makes me think, actually, this is a great time to mention RoleCatcher's feedback feature. Because, they have that AI thing. You can actually, like, record yourself answering these questions, and it gives you feedback.
Wow.
Like, it'll give you feedback on how clear you're being, your tone, even your body language.
It's like having a little coach in your pocket.
It is.
That could be really helpful for those questions where you have to be, like, in charge, but also friendly,
Right. You have to find that balance.
Like the next one.
Yeah, what's next?
How do you prioritize safety in your work as a crossing guard?
Okay, that one, again, on the surface feels pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But what are they really asking there?
Yeah, they want to know that you really get the responsibility you're taking on. Right.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just know the rules of the road. You need to live and breathe safety. Like every single thing you do should show that.
So it's not about being like, well, red light, green light.
No reciting the laws.
Yeah.
They want to see that you've taken those rules and they're a part of how you think. Like, for example, you always double check for traffic, even if the walk sign is on, because let's be honest, drivers aren't always paying attention.
And the career guide actually calls that out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it talks about how you've got sudden weather changes, you've got drivers not following the rules. It's like, you really do have to be ready for anything.
Yeah, and if you can show them that you can roll with it and think on your feet, but you always put safety first, that's what they want to hear.
Okay, so moving on, question number 4 is, how do you stay alert and focused during your shift as a crossing guard?
Hmm.
And I don't know if they realize that sometimes standing outside a school for hours can feel like time is moving really slowly.
It can be a little bit like Groundhog Day, right?
It can.
But you can't let them know that you're going to zone out even when things are quiet because it's all about safety, right?
Yeah,
And the career guide actually talks about this. Crossing guards, they often have long shifts.
right.
Sometimes the weather's bad and you can't let your guard down. Staying alert is non-negotiable.
So besides, like, a thermos full of coffee, what are some ways that you can make sure that you are staying sharp?
Yeah, so honesty is key here. Like, acknowledge that there might be some slow moments and then tell them how you're going to proactively deal with that. So you could say something like, I move around to stay energized, or, I'm always looking around for anything that seems off, or even I do some mental exercises to keep my mind sharp.
So being proactive and showing that you've thought about it,
Yeah.
not just, oh, I'm a very alert person.
Exactly. The more real and specific you are, the more prepared you'll seem. You could even tell a quick story about a time you had to really focus on a boring task,
Oh, good idea.
even if it's not about traffic safety.
Right.
The idea is the same, right? You're focused.
Awesome. Question number 5 throws you right into it.
Ah.
What steps would you take if you noticed a vehicle speeding through the school zone? Okay, this is where it gets real. This is where those safety instincts have to kick in.
Totally. This question, they want to see you jump into action to protect those pedestrians. But also, can you stay cool and remember important details for later? Right? You got to do both.
So it's like quick thinking and...
Clear-headed under pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your first priority is to get that speeder to slow down. Use those nonverbal skills we were talking about, right?
Mm.
Like, really signal to them, if you can, try to remember what kind of car it was, Make and model, license plate, ideally. That can be huge later on.
Right, because it's easy to kind of, in that moment, be like, oh my gosh, they were speeding.
Hmm.
But later on, you might not remember.
Right, exactly.
But if you can remember those details, it shows you can handle the pressure.
Totally. And hey, if there are other people around who saw it, see if you can get their contact info too. Because those little details, they can help make the school zone safer in the long run, right?
Yeah. It's almost like you're also being like a protector of the school zone in that.
Totally. It's bigger than just that moment,
Right.
You get it.
Okay. So question number 6. How do you handle conflicts with parents or other pedestrians who may not agree with your directions?
Ooh, good one.
I feel like this runs the gamut. Like sometimes you might just have someone who's a little disgruntled.
Yep.
And sometimes you have people who, like, they take their morning commute very, very seriously.
You're telling me. This one's all about how you handle disagreements, especially when everyone's watching and you're the traffic authority, right?
So no losing your cool, even if someone's being totally unreasonable?
Nope. You've got to be the diplomat, the calm in the storm. The career guide talks about how important it is to have good vibes with the people in the community, positive interactions. So what does that mean? It means staying cool as a cucumber, hearing them out, even if you don't agree with what they're saying, and then explaining yourself super clearly and respectfully.
Easier said than done when someone's, like, late for work and convinced they know better than the person holding the stop sign.
Oh, for sure. But remember, you're not there to win an argument. Your job is to make sure everyone's safe, period. You could say something like, hey, I totally get it. You're in a hurry, but for everyone's safety, we gotta wait until that light turns green. It's the rules.
Right. De-escalate. Be respectful. Be clear. I like it. Speaking of communication, this feels like a good segue to question number 7, which is all about a challenge that's very specific to this job. How do you communicate effectively with children and pedestrians who may not speak the same language as you?
Ooh, that's a good one. That goes back to those nonverbal skills we were talking about earlier. Your hands, clear gestures, eye contact, all that, they become super important when words just aren't cutting it.
It's like you become an orchestra conductor almost, like really using your whole body to communicate.
That's a great way to put it. And if you happen to know a few basic phrases in other languages that are common in the area, that's amazing. Even simple things like stop or wait, it shows you're really trying.
It shows you're proactive. You're a problem solver.
Exactly. And don't forget, if you're using RoleCatcher to practice, their AI can actually give you feedback on how well you're doing with all of that, even if you're just recording a video.
That's really, really cool and helpful. But let's talk about a less high-tech challenge for a minute, the weather.
Oh yeah, that's real.
Question number 8 is, how do you handle difficult weather conditions, such as heavy rain or snow, during your shift?
Okay, so this one might seem kind of basic, but it actually says a lot about how dedicated you are and how prepared you are. Remember how the career guide mentioned that being out in the elements is a downside? They weren't kidding.
Yeah. So you can't just be like, I own an umbrella.
No, not quite. Think about it. They need to know you're going to be there no matter what Mother Nature throws your way. Talk about dressing for the occasion. Rain gear, warm layers, the whole 9 yards. You could even mention having a backup plan for being visible to drivers if it gets foggy or starts snowing really hard, like those reflective vests. The ones construction workers use?
Right, right. It shows you're thinking ahead and you're ready for anything. Rain or shine, you're there.
Exactly. And speaking of being ready for anything, question 9 throws another curveball. How do you handle a situation where a child is lost or separated from their parent during your shift? Now, we're not just talking about traffic safety. We're talking about...
Oh, wow. Child safety? And like emotional intelligence almost.
Right.
That feels like a lot of pressure.
It can be. They want to see if you can stay calm, act fast, and reassure a potentially terrified kid while you're trying to get them back to their parent.
So you're not just a crossing guard. You're like a comforting presence. Okay, so how do you actually do that? What does that look like?
First things first, stay with the child. Let them know you're there to help them find their parent. If they're old enough, ask them their parent's name, if they have any contact information, anything like that.
It doesn't work.
Okay, well, if the school is nearby, you can walk them there. Chances are their parent will have already let the school know. If that's not an option, or if you're worried about the child, don't hesitate to call the police.
It's a good reminder that, you're the first line of response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of unexpected, let's tackle our final question, which is all about those high-pressure moments. How do you handle stressful situations, such as accidents or emergencies, during your shift?
Okay. I feel like this is where everything we've talked about comes together, staying calm, communicating clearly, making safety the priority. But there's also that element of knowing what to do when something really serious happens.
Exactly. This question is all about whether you can keep a cool head when things get crazy and make good decisions even in the middle of chaos.
So should you mention if you have first aid training or anything like that?
It definitely doesn't hurt to mention it if you do.
Yeah.
But honestly, they really want to hear about how you make decisions under pressure. Can you quickly figure out what's going on? Can you prioritize? Can you stay calm enough to give good information to the paramedics if they need to be called?
It's like you're that calm in the storm.
Yes, you got it. You could even talk about a time you handled a really stressful situation, even if it wasn't related to this line of work. The key is to highlight that you don't panic, you think clearly, and you take action when it matters most.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it really shows how much more goes into being a crossing guard than people might realize.
I know, right?
It's not just about standing there with the sign.
No, it takes a really unique set of skills. You have to be watchful, compassionate, a quick thinker, and a clear communicator. It's a lot.
We've covered a lot of ground. We talked about handling unexpected things with kids, navigating conversations with adults, even staying focused during those long shifts.
It's all about being prepared and showing that you're truly passionate about keeping people safe. And remember, you got this. You got this.
I love it.
You got this. And they're going to be looking for all of that and how you present yourself too, not just your answers.
Right, right. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Okay, any final thoughts on our little deep dive into these crossing guard interview questions before we move on?
Just this. Prepare for the questions you know they're going to ask. But don't be afraid to show them how you handle the unexpected. Let them see that you can think on your feet, that you can communicate clearly, and that you'll always make safety your top priority. And, remember, RoleCatcher can be a lifesaver throughout this whole process. It can help you tailor your resume, practice your answers, and get that awesome AI feedback.
Yeah, it really is like having a little coach in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up completely, we wanted to hit on a few things from that career guide, Crossing Guard, that you shared.
Okay, sounds good.
Because it brings us some interesting stuff about what it's really like to be a crossing guard that you might not think about right away.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to, ace the interview, but you also want to have a realistic picture of what the job actually involves.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's break down some of these key things. One that stood out to me was the part about career stages. They actually have a whole section about how you can move up from being an entry-level crossing guard to more senior roles.
That's such a good point, and it's something to keep in mind while you're prepping for your interviews. Even if you're just starting out, knowing where you want to go can make a big difference.
Okay, so are you saying that it's smart to actually mention your career goals during the interview?
It can be, but it's all about how you say it. You don't want to give the impression that you're already looking past this job, you know?
Okay.
Focus on how much you're looking forward to learning and growing within the position.
So not, I'm using this as a stepping stone to become.
Mhm.
It's more like, I'm excited about all the learning opportunities here and maybe taking on more responsibility down the road.
Exactly. That tells them that you're in it for the long haul and that you see yourself building a career there.
I like it. It's good advice. Now, another thing that really struck me in that career guide was the part about dealing with tough situations.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit when we were going over the interview questions, but the guide really gets into the nitty-gritty of the challenges that crossing guards face.
Yeah, they don't sugarcoat it, that's for sure.
No, they don't. From dealing with, like, aggressive drivers to handling arguments between people on the street, you need some serious people skills for this job.
Oh, absolutely. And remember, you're often dealing with people who are stressed, they're in a rush, or they just aren't paying attention at all.
Yeah, you need the patience of a saint.
You really do. And the guide actually has some really good tips on how to de-escalate those tense moments. Like, it talks a lot about staying calm but assertive, even when the other person is losing it.
Which makes a lot of sense. You're setting the tone, right?
Right. And it's not always easy, let me tell you. But it's super important for keeping everyone safe.
For sure. The guide also highlights the importance of clear communication, which we keep coming back to that.
Yeah, it comes up a lot for a reason.
It does.
Whether you're telling a kid what to do, explaining yourself to an adult, or even calling in an incident, you have to be able to communicate clearly and effectively.
And it's not even just about what you say, it's how you say it,
Yeah.
right? Your tone of voice, your body language, your ability to stay calm when things are hectic.
100%. And
Yeah.
that right there is something that RoleCatcher can really help you with. You know, their AI feedback. It can actually analyze those subtle things and help you come across as confident and in charge, even in those stressful moments.
That's so helpful. It's like having, yeah, again, it's like having that coach, that little AI coach there, giving you feedback.
Huh.
Okay, so the career guide also talks about what it's like to actually be a crossing guard, day to day.
Yes, the work environment, and it's not always what people expect.
Uh-huh.
Like, some parts of the job might seem a little repetitive, like how many times can you put that stop sign up and down, you know? But then you remember every single day is different.
Right, you have new people to interact with, new situations. You've got to be adaptable.
Exactly. You might be helping a lost kid one minute and then dealing with a traffic jam or a fender bender the next.
So you've got to be ready for anything. You've got to be able to multitask.
In a way, yes. But it's bigger than that. It's about being really present, really observant, always tuned in to what's happening around you. Because you never know what's going to happen next.
And let's be real, you're outside, no matter what the weather's doing. That adds a whole other level of, you got to be tough.
Oh, yeah. The career guide talks about that, too, like the physical demands.
Right.
You're on your feet a lot, and sometimes you're battling the elements. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not just directing traffic. It's being comfortable working outdoors, rain or shine, or, snow.
Exactly. You're out there making sure your community is safe no matter what.
That's dedication. And speaking of dedication, the career guide mentions that a lot of crossing guards find the job really, really rewarding.
That's so true. And it's important. Yes, there are challenges, but there are also huge rewards. Like knowing that you are making a real difference in the lives of kids and their families. That's huge.
Yeah, just being a positive presence in your community.
Yes. And that feeling, that purpose, it can really keep you going.
It sounds like you've got to have a big heart for this job. You're patient, you're aware of everything going on, you really enjoy being a part of your community. It's more than just a job, it sounds like.
You got it. It takes a really special blend of skills and qualities to do this job well.
And it sounds like the career guide really emphasizes that those qualities are so important.
Oh, yeah. They make it clear that crossing guards are the backbone of their communities. They're trusted. People rely on them to keep everyone safe and sound.
It's amazing how much of an impact they have, even in those short interactions throughout the day.
Yeah, I know. Whether they're giving a kid a smile, helping an older person across, or just their presence alone is discouraging reckless driving, all those little things add up, It's about kindness, taking responsibility. It really makes a difference.
It sounds like a pretty meaningful job.
It really is. If you're passionate about keeping people safe, being a part of something bigger, and you actually want to make a difference that you can see, Being a crossing guard, that's a really great path.
That's a great way to put it. Well, I want to thank you so much for walking us through all of this crossing guard interview prep. It's been super helpful. You've given us so much to think about, both from those interview questions and from that career guide.
Of course. Happy to do it. I hope everyone listening feels a little more ready to go out there and ace their interviews.
I think they definitely do. And remember, you got this. Don't let those nerves get to you. Let your passion for this shine through. And hey, RoleCatcher, right. Don't forget about that little helper.
Yeah, RoleCatcher. Good luck to all you future crossing guards out there.
We're rooting for you. That's it for us this time. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.